think this is definitely something that is very new and that hasn't been done before. Yes.
I think what we're doing right now is the biggest leap forward in the development of Appwrite.
Eldad's ideas are pretty crazy.
We want the developers to have a frictionless process from idea to having something in production.
We've noticed that for a lot of developers, it's really, overwhelming to manage all their integrations.
We didn't want them to jump around between different products, different tools.
Multiple billing cycles, API keys, database keys.
So Appwrite has always been about really simplifying the backends, and with this move,
we're completing the biggest missing piece that Appwrite developer had.
It just really feels like a stepping stone into a new Appwrite era.
The fact that we're doing that is going to be a big deal, and it's going to be a completely different experience for people.
Yeah, I would say we're now backend as a service, but with hosting as well.
Hello. Welcome to day 4 of Appwrite in it. So today we have a fun stream. We have some amazing guests that are going to be joining us. I'm sure you've all seen the thumbnail. You've checked the video description. All of these guests are titans of the industry, and I don't know how I'm going to interview them within this hour time and actually keep this information contained. So we're going to do the best we can, because with each one of these, I probably need a 3-hour podcast just to really pull out this information. But it's going to be a lot of fun. And the focus of this is going to be the amazing but unsettling future for developers. And the reason why we're having all these guests in particular is because of their unique position in the industry. So collectively, with all 3 guests, probably even individually, they have influenced thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, in some cases, millions of other developers. They are on the forefront in the education space. They're speaking at conferences. They are utilizing the tech that you see currently active, and they see all these changes with AI coming into the market, how it's impacting everybody from the early stages in their education to how companies are using it today. So each guest was handpicked because of their position. So this is going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully we're able to answer some questions about the unsettling future of where the market's going. I know there's a lot of fear around this. So I'm excited to really, set the record straight and see what they're seeing in the market right now. We see a lot of hype on social media, but a lot of that comes from people trying to be sensationalist and maybe don't have their ear to the ground. These experts do. So I'm going to bring them up together here in a second here, but I want to quickly just give you an introduction. So first, we have Quincy Larson, the founder of Free Code Camp. And right now the channel has over 10 million subscribers. I don't know what the exact count is right now, but this is one of the biggest tech education platforms in the world, if not the biggest. And it's also one of the biggest websites out there too. So a lot of students going there. It's kind of the default for where developers get educated in their early stages in their career. Now, we also have the Danny Thompson, and he is, I believe, the director of technology at ThisDotLabs. I want to make sure to get that title right. I'm seeing Danny's reaction in the backstage. Maybe I got that wrong. He'll correct me there. But Danny is a meetup organizer. He hosts conferences. He's currently working with the top companies in the industry, has worked at Google, created his own LinkedIn course, somebody that really knows the industry. Then we have Noel. This is somebody that runs one of the biggest cohorts out there. Last I checked, the Discord server he has over 60,000 members, the 100 devs server, and that's linked up in the video description. And this is where he takes people from start to finish, teaching them how to get a job, where to get educated, and they're hosting almost daily streams. I know they weekly stream on Thursdays and Fridays, but I think there's an event going on every day. So Leon is somebody that knows the industry very well. He's ran boot camps before. He's taught at Harvard. He's a Yale, not graduate, attendant. I believe he dropped out of Yale. Again, Leon, you can correct me there, but just an amazing panel. So before I bring them up real quick, I wanted to make sure this picture gets shown. Today, we are trending number 2 on GitHub. if we can get this to 50,000 by the end of the week, this would be amazing. We're growing at about 300 stars a day. So we're at 49,677. Help us get there. If you haven't started the official Appwrite GitHub repo, go ahead and do that. It's linked up in the video description as well. So let's go ahead and reach this goal. That would be an awesome achievement for the end of it. Now, I'm going to bring up Danny here. We have Leon and Quincy's going to join in a bit here. We sent him the link, but there might just be a slight issue there. So, Danny, Leon, so awesome to have you. Did I get the facts right? Director of Technology.
In the chat. I am. Quincy's in the chat. Yes, I am the Director of Technology at ThisDotLabs. Quincy, I sent you the link in the email and what's it called? Discord.
He's locked out, huh? Yeah, I can't send it on Twitter. Twitter DMs are not working. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Director of Technology at ThisDotLabs. I am also an avid run your mouth on social media kind of a person, and so I do that. It tends to get us in trouble at times. But also, my brother and I get to geek out at the very least once a week, recording our podcast. Honestly, one of the best programming podcasts out there with that name. And so we own the SEO on that in a big way. But lastly, I will say this, and it's a slight plug, the Commit Your Code conference that Appwrite also supports. And I say this when a lot of companies, and I mean a lot of companies, don't show up, Appwrite has been one that always shows up for the community. I don't say that because we're on here. Genuinely, I say it at all of our meetups. I get people excited about Appwrite whenever I can. But truthfully, when a lot of companies say no, Appwrite is one of the few that genuinely do show up on time every time to support the community. So they will always have my love for that. So if you haven't showed Appwrite love, show them some love. But if you haven't bought your tickets for the Commit Your Code conference, I suggest you do it.
I'm going to have to update the comments with the programming podcast. That's Leon and Danny. Great conversations all the time. And yes, Commit Your Code. Leon, I think you're going to be there this year. I'll be speaking there. I'm not sure. Yeah. Yeah, Quincy was there last year. It was a great time. This is going to be in Dallas, and that's in September. So I'll make sure that's linked up. Before I bring up Quincy, Leon, did I get your facts correct? And I want to give you a minute to say something. I don't want to interrupt.
No, you did great. Yeah, thank you for the baller intro. I'll take it all day. Yeah, it's been. I'm excited to be here. Appwrite has shown up for the 100 Devs community time and time again. A lot of your staff are just consistently in our Discord, answering questions and being helpful. So yeah, happy to be here today too. Yeah, and also with the goats. So this is dope.
We're pumped to have you. And we got Quincy here. Now, I'm definitely going to when I first invited you all, I was like, okay, this is going to be a great conversation. We're going to have some fun here. And then like just studying this, I know that you all can be talkers, right? But you have so much information, and listening to this podcast, I'm like, there is no way I'm going to get all this information out of you. So we're going to see how I can contain this. But yeah, Quincy, what's going on?
Hey, everybody. Thrilled to be here. Can you all hear me all right?
Yes.
Perfect.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for your patience with the communication. And thanks shout out to Danny for sending me the link to the StreamYard. First of all, Appwrite, I had already started, so I can't join in the GitHub trending action. But see, everybody tune in and be sure to start it. It's really important that we have open source infra and like frameworks and stuff like this to help just get stuff up. And not be completely dependent on proprietary technology that is closed source, right? So yeah, I'm thrilled to be here. Thanks for inviting me. I just want to shout out the awesome podcast that Leon and Danny do. I was listening to it earlier this morning, just learning. Like I learn a lot. Like you would think I would already know all this stuff, but like I didn't know nearly as much about recruiters as I thought I did, and I learned quite a bit from today. I think it was like today's or yesterday's episode. So be sure to tune in to the Programmer Podcast. The programming.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, likewise. I like I said, I'm listening to it, and I'm working in the garden. I'm listening to these conversations, and it's just a great time. It's well formatted, the way y'all edit that, and just the knowledge. It's intense. Also, I didn't realize this, but this was the panel at Commit Your Code.
Yeah.
You all have been on each other's podcasts at some point. I listened to the Quincy and Leon podcast. That's where I learned that Leon has all these prizes and he's this noble person that I don't know about. Speaking at Harvard, teaching there. I had no idea. I mean, we've sat down and chatted, and you're you're one of the most humble people I've ever talked to, and you're probably the definition of chill guy. Like if that meme was a real person, that's how I would see you. Yeah. So with this, we want to talk about the future. I said this in the introduction. You know, the market is shifting like crazy right now. We've seen this evolution from where tech used to be to low code impacting everything to now the AI space. And I know you all have very similar takes, but very strong positions on where the market's at. And I actually want to start off with probably Quincy and Leon here, because you all are currently actively running like an education platform of some sort, right? And there was this post that came out 2 days ago. I think Francesco Chula posted this, and it was an 18-year-old developer that didn't know what Stack Overflow was. And the crazy part is this was something that was just default. Every developer knows it, just like, GitHub. And they didn't know what it was, and that was due to, AI and how we learn. Oh, Francesco's in the chat right here, actually. We see how developers are changing and how they learn. How have you seen this in your current platforms, and have y'all adjusted to this? Like, has the curriculum changed? Because we're not going to Stack Overflow. Are people still reading articles? What has shifted since this massive revolution?
Yeah, Leon, you want to go first?
I mean, goats go first, but I'm happy. I'm happy. I was gonna sit back and enjoy your conversation, but I'm.
This is my goat right here.
I love it. Yeah.
Oh, that's
awesome. Leon adopted this goat for me. So chill. Thank you, sir.
Happy to answer though. So yeah, I think there's a couple things that are happening right now in the education space, of course, because of AI. One is some of the things that we've been doing for a while continue to be advantageous even in this current age. And then some things radically have to change. So adult learning theory is adult learning theory. The way adults learn and how they go about processing information is really well studied. We know the basics. So one of the things like deliberate, goal-oriented practice, where you are taking a topic and you're doing deliberate practice through it, is something that Free Code Camp has been doing for years to help people actually learn. With the advent of AI, we see that becoming even more important. And maybe AI tools can slip in and help us with that deliberate practice. But the things that we've been doing at a fundamental level are still there. Now, with AI, we have the ability to really lean into this adult theory even more, to provide one-on-one tutoring, to provide different loads into how we learn. But the thing I'm seeing right now that's the hardest is students might not know how to utilize these tools effectively. And so the real boots on the ground that I'm seeing is that we're at this really interesting crossroads where I can see how AI is going to be fundamentally transformative for learners going forward, but we haven't really started the full training of how folks should be utilizing it in the right way. And a lot of the barriers that folks have when it comes to learning can be exacerbated if you're using these tools in not the right way. Like how do you make sure that you don't use this little magic tool that cheats your ability to build mastery, that cheats your ability to deeply understand topics, to put together all the connections you need for long-term understanding of material. And so we're at this really interesting spot where we see that this powerful tool is here that could possibly transform learning forever, but we might not know yet how to use it. And so we're trying to figure it out. And I'm seeing students either really lean into it and get amazing benefits, or use it incorrectly and it actually stunts their learning. And so I think it's just like one of the weirdest and best times for learning ever. Especially
it's created education. It's almost created like a new issue where it's like historically we had all these problems we had to tackle to get someone, from A to B or A to Z, I guess. But now it's like, okay, now there's this tool. It's amazing, but we have to watch out and make sure you're not doing this the wrong way. You're not just prompting your way into it and having no idea what's going on. It's like the calculator issue in a sense, where we don't have to actually know the underlying math anymore because we lean on it too much, even though that whole change shifted in its own way. That's an interesting thought. I didn't think about that as its own issue now.
Yeah, and if you want to hear my thoughts, like just to add to what Leon has said, I agree. There's a lot of promise and there's peril in becoming beholden to these tools, and I'm very excited about the open source or at least open weight models. We'll have an open source model, but it won't be trained on all the proprietary information because the moment somebody makes a truly open source model and you can see what was trained, they just open themselves for like a huge lawsuit, right? From like Disney and from New York Times and like all these other, people who most definitely created the inputs that these models were trained on. So you just pedantic open weight, but like the open weight models are very exciting because they're not necessarily controlled by some giant, corporation. And you have the ability to like roll it out and you can, maybe you can even like introspect a little bit what is happening inside of it. Like if you do no black box AI, for example, you actually understand and then you can kind of have a better idea how to dodge like the hallucinations and stuff like that. But getting to the educational aspect, I am very excited about open weight models. And I'm really hyped about DeepSeek. I'm really hyped about Llama. And I think these are going to be awesome. And I would love it if this discovery, I consider discovery, not an invention. OpenAI did not invent anything. They just kept taking these models and putting more and more data, and there was this emergent property, this discovery that if you have enough data, if you have a large enough language model, it can do these magical things. So I don't think anybody should really own this. I'm sure there are lots of patents and there are going to be lots of lawsuits and stuff around this because this is like trillions of dollars worth of value were created by this discovery, just like kind of like spreadsheets. I consider a comparable invention. Half the world's, business runs on spreadsheets. Spreadsheets are where like most of the data in the world actually is stored. It's not necessarily stored in a database. And I think that those were a significant step change in productivity, the introduction of spreadsheets. And yet at the same time, it did make it a lot easier for people to kind of like not learn how to do things the old fashioned way with the actual math. I mean, so you could say like an LLM is kind of like a calculator for words, but what do calculators do to people's math skills? Well, they wrecked them to an extent, right? Because people became dependent on the tools. And I definitely don't want people to become overly dependent on tools that could potentially go away or tools that could potentially be compromised, overly commercialized. There's a lot of risk in depending on LLMs. But as long as the LLMs, as long as they're going to be powerful, open weight models that you can like self-host and stuff, I'm not too worried about that. What I'm really worried about is like learned helplessness.
Yes.
I'm worried about people basically saying like, how do I do my job? Well, I just talk to the computer and it does everything. Like in the Jetsons, this TV show from like the 1960s. You know what George Jetson's job was in the feature where he's got his flying car and all this stuff. He's got his robot maid, Rosie, and all this stuff. You know what his job was? His job was to go to the plant and he was the human who pressed the button and then all the automation kicked in and the plant just went into full, like did everything it needed to do. But his job was to be the person who presses the button. And I do not want a future where people's job is to press the button and then it kick back, a Homer Simpson style at the control table, right? Like I would not be happy if we were so beholden to our tools that there were not people that were actually writing code, that were not actually doing like calculations and stuff like that. And you could say, well, but throughput goes up if we just hand everything over to the machines. I'm skeptical. I'm gonna press X to down on that one, like over a longer period of time. So this is kind of a rambling response, but like I don't believe the hype. I don't believe it for a second. I do not believe when Jensen Huang, CEO of NVIDIA, the second largest corporation in the world, who is the second largest corporation in the world, because he stands up there and hypes this, I don't believe him when he says, "Oh, don't teach your kids how to code." That's like done.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that. That was so sensationalist and it bothered me so bad. Quincy, I have a question that I want to follow up on here. So Free Code Camp, the daily traffic's in the millions probably, right?
We get about 1 million visits a day. Yeah.
So with that kind of data, you have mass numbers to see any kind of change. Like if something goes down 1%, you see it.
It's gone down a lot. I'm not going to beat around the bush. Traffic to Free Code Camp has dropped a lot, and I attribute it to several things, and I'll tell you why. But I'll tell you total usage of Free Code Camp, like in terms of like serious people progressing and stuff like that. We have fewer like tire kickers because they're just like it's mostly more serious people because a lot of the fair weather people, like the Wall Street people, they're like, I might be able to make marginally more money if I become a software engineer. Like a lot of that stuff kind of like went away when a lot of the hype around learning to code died off. And a lot of that is because a combination of several factors. And I hope I'm actually answering your question, Dennis, and I didn't just jump in. But like one, a lot of people are worried about layoffs and whether like software engineering roles are going to, continue. And they're like, 5 years ago levels of developers in the world, probably like 25, 30 million devs who are paid to write code. It's a lot. It's a big industry. These people make a lot of money. It didn't just go away. It just hit like a little bit of a contraction. And I think a lot of people see this sine wave going like this up and to the left. And when they see a trough and they're comparing it to what happened like a few years before, and they're like, oh, it's dead. It's over. Software engineering is not over. It's not going anywhere. If anything, it's going to grow over the long term because we're going to continue to push complexity to the software layer because it saves tremendous amounts of money. That's what software is about. Automating things is saving money. And that's what these LLM tools, like they're marketing themselves not as doing, you're going to do revolutionary things. Yeah, they'll say that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, it's about saving money. It's about automating a lot of stuff that you like. It used to take forever to port, a game from one console to the next. Or, like this is the sort of stuff that is potentially, it's being pitched as a cost saving things. Even when they say like, oh, we're going to like reduce the need for developers, that's like a cost saving thing. It's not necessarily an additive technology. It's just, it's reducing the cost. But anyway, like I think that is one thing is people are anxious about the number of jobs. The second thing is people are anxious about the role of AI and like whether learning to code is even worth the time and effort. Of course, I believe that it absolutely is. And not only that, but you should spend time learning the fundamentals, these very fundamentals that people are saying, oh, you're never going to write SQL again. You're never going to write like basic bash scripts again. I think you should probably learn how to do that. And then the third thing that I think is Google has just fallen off. Like you Google anything and you're just seeing a bunch of AI slop. And you're getting these algorithmic answers at the top. And then you scroll down and it's just a bunch of tech bros pumping out thousands of articles on SEO keywords. And you can't find anything that's actually good stuff written by engineers anymore. Stack Overflow, people don't even know it exists because they're so beholden to their tools. But there's tons of great stuff on Stack Overflow. I use it all the freaking time. So I think these three factors, ambiguity about the job market, ambiguity about whether it's worth learning to code, and then just like the fact that our Google traffic has fallen off a cliff because people aren't using Google anymore because it sucks. Or if they are using it, they're getting like algorithmic answers instead of like finding the high quality articles that are all human edited that people have spent a ton of time reading, writing. Like I think that confluence of things has resulted in fewer people arriving at freecodecamp.org, which is not a big deal. Like the big deal is when people actually are not learning to code and they have like kind of given up on becoming developers. And I'm out here every time. And I know Danny and Leon are out there like telling people, no, you really should become a developer. It just may not be as easy as it used to be.
So you answered the question perfectly. That's what I was curious about is what's been that impact? And you're right. You're saying the site traffic's down, how people are learning has completely changed. And you have that raw data in the millions, I guess, at this point, millions of visitors every month. So any change you would see it. I've seen it just from my personal YouTube channel. The traffic that we've seen from 2020, from the original hype to where it's at now, has shifted. The biggest one, though, is that learning to code. And Danny, you had an awesome take in your podcast with Leon about 4 months ago, and you were talking about coding in 2025. Developers not learning. You talked about this, where a lot of these hype bros that come out with content, they scare everyone. Somebody who's working at Burgerville was thinking about learning to code, is scared out of it. And you're saying, what's the alternative? And you're also giving a good take on where the market's actually going to be. Like, okay, you're not going to learn a code, but it's not going anywhere. And you had a good answer to why that is. Like how much of the market's been impacted and why that coding skill still might be valuable, even if something were to change in, let's say, a year by the time they're ready to work. What's your thoughts on that?
2 days ago, I jumped on a call with somebody. And in that call, they were very active in 100 devs. They were very active. They got a degree in college, right? And in 2022 to early 2023, they were learning, but they're working in a warehouse in Virginia. And they were like, for the area that I'm living in, like I think he's making like 60 grand a year. He's like, I'm making pretty good money. Like I asked him, like, let's dive deep into this, right? And so because of that, he completely fell off and he just gave up. He didn't pursue it, et cetera, et cetera. And he's like, man, I feel so much regret. I wish I stuck with this. I really wish I stuck with this. And I want to get back into it now. And he jumped on a call with me, like a one-on-one. I do like these ad hoc one-on-one calls here and there. I don't really like doing it, mainly because it's just a lot of time that you have to dedicate. But regardless, I did it for him. And I was like, yeah, if you stuck with it, your whole circumstance right now would be completely different, right? But I don't know what I could tell you in that moment that would have made you stick with it because you were so comfortable in what was happening. You didn't see the bigger long-term picture. What you just saw instead was, hey, this is kind of uncomfortable right now. I'm in a weird spot. I know I got to really get out of my comfort zone if I want to grow with this, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's not really attractive, right? And so it's like, hey, I could just stick with this warehouse job, feeling comfortable in what I'm doing, and we're good. Now you want to jump into it now. It just makes me realize how many people right now are going to be in this exact same situation in 2027. Because I'm telling you right now, outside of the salacial headlines that I know a lot of people follow, I can tell you from firsthand experience, I now work, my entire career, I've worked in enterprise. I now work at a tech consultancy, right? It is a completely different conversation, ball game, area expertise. To give you an idea, I personally know tech consultants that are charging $600 an hour. You don't think those mother lovers would get automated away before everybody else? Like, you don't think they would be gone as much as they're charging? Isn't there a bigger incentive to get rid of them at that high dollar rate than other developers? Am I going to be oblivious and say some people aren't necessarily getting automated away because of hype? 100%. And I don't think it's really automated away. I think it's more along the lines of how do we appease shareholders? I think that's more of the rhetoric that's happening right now. But like, for example, Microsoft, they had layoffs of 6,000. I saw Twitter going crazy, AI. It's not AI. How many years in a row have they done the same layoff where it's like, hey, we're looking at, people that we may or may not be at the bottom of the ranks or whatever it may be, but because they're an AI shareholder or a leader in this space, they have to make it look like AI is doing something. I'll be honest with you, it's companies are bringing us in right now, like a lot of companies. Prime example, I was just at Stripe Sessions. It is a business-focused conference. First time I've ever been to a business-focused conference. Everything I've ever done before that has been tech conferences, right? But I was very impressed by the level of technical conversations happening at this thing. And I met some people like the senior vice president of Ford Motors, right? And I've met people that were like big names for household names, companies, right? Literally saying, I have an 8-figure budget for us to train our teams on AI. They didn't say, hey, we're firing these folks. We're training them. They're skilling up. And if you look back at the podcast, I think it was our podcast, but I also said it on the Modern Web podcast for ThisDotLabs, the company that I work for. What I believe right now, we are in what I call the AI forgiveness bubble, right? And the big thing here is when you go to somebody like, oh, you don't know what MCP is? We don't either. We're trying to figure this out. In a year or two from now, that rhetoric, that tone of conversation will be completely different. It'll go from, we're trying to figure it out too, to like, oh, you don't know MCP by now? Like, you haven't figured this out? Regardless of where you stand on hype or not, I don't believe we're in a bubble. I believe that we're in the shift of what basically the way that I saw ES6 happen, right? When ES6 came out, it changed the standard of how people were basically using JavaScript. I see this being in a very similar light. I don't see this whole rhetoric of not knowing how to code, but I do see some of the tools that we rely on for our day-to-day completely changing because of that. And so if you don't shift, we're literally seeing the industry shift right now. And so if you don't adopt with the times, I think it's going to be a very interesting situation because traditionally enterprise level organizations are very slow to move on certain things. We are now at a point where enterprise level organizations are creating entire frameworks for their teams to skill up so that they're ready for this. And so I'm not saying that you need to be on the AI hype train, but you do need to know the core basics of some of the technologies like MCP. I think you need to be somewhat familiar with the terms of RAG and vector databasing, so that way you have like some kind of underlying theme about that. But this is going to be your evolution with the the industry. And I think you need to understand how your skill set applies to it here, so that way you can kind of grow with it. We're going to be putting a lot of content out. Actually, the last, not the podcast episode that came out today, but the one before this, it was an entire AI, the developer's guide to AI, but more so less of the hype and more so core things that you need to know. It's on the Programming Podcast. It was a phenomenal episode. Highly recommend checking that one out. There's a lot of like true value in that one.
So when you say AI forgiveness zone, you're talking about this period. Is that what said? Forgiveness bubble or zone? I didn't don't remember how you worded it.
I don't remember. I blacked out when I said it. I don't even know what I said.
let's say forgiveness zone, I guess. So we're at that point where it's like companies know they need it. It's kind of becoming an expectation, like whether they know how to use it themselves. They're like, oh, do you use these AI tools? And I think they almost use it as a metric of like, are you up to date? But you're saying that we're going to get to a point where at some point, everyone's going to need to know, at least at a high level, what an MCP server is, what a vector database is, just like back in the day, you were expected to know what a server is, what client-side rendering was, these basic things. Like it's going to be at a point where if you don't know it, it's just going to be unacceptable.
Yeah.
What about the new, and this is for everybody, what about the new direction of the junior developer or mid-level developer, the job itself? Because I've seen a shift here, and I have different expectations when I interview candidates now. But what is expected out of that position, how it's changed? Everyone says junior jobs are dead now. I think there's been a massive shift. I don't think they're dead. I think the entire job description is rewritten, though. The things that you would have a junior do in writing basic code now has changed. What's the thought?
I have a hot take. I'll go last because my take I know is different from everybody else's.
I don't think they're dead. We have data, right? We can see the job postings. We can see the outcomes reports. We get the labor data, right? They're not dead. But what we have seen is a trend in what's being asked for, like you were saying, right? LinkedIn put out their data, 25% of jobs asking for AI first skills. So there are just new things that are going to be put into the mix when you're looking for these more entry-level roles. I never like the word junior. I don't ever use the word junior. I like entry-level. And so I think entry-level is changing. And I think that's always happened throughout our industry. And right now it's changing to be incorporating some of these skills that are going to make you have a value add to the org that you join early. And so I think when we think about the level of entry-level talent moving into the engineering space, there's always waves that happen, shifts that happen, things that you have to learn, things that you have to know, things that you have to do. That's changing right now. And so to walk into these entry-level positions, there are just some things that you have to know. You have to play the game a little bit differently if you're actually applying and going on the job search. And so I don't think they're going away. I don't think they will truly ever go away. The responsibilities and the things you have to do at these positions will change. And then we also have the raw data that shows that folks are still going into opportunities, even through anecdotally through 100 devs. We see people getting jobs every day. And what I just want people to realize is that, like, you ever wanted an excuse? This seems like the biggest excuse you could ever have. But like we were saying earlier, we had folks in 2023 that wished in 2025 they were developers. And like Danny said, they're going to wish in 2027 that you were still doing these things. So if you ever wanted an excuse, now's your excuse. You can take it, run away, and we'll never see you again. But if you buckle down, you learn these in-demand skills, you learn these things as the opportunities are changing, the world's yours.
How do you prep for that new position, though? Like if you're teaching someone, let's say Leon, you're hands-on with people. It used to be learn how to write some HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and then you prep them for the role and you want to set some expectations, right? What's your first job going to be? The entry-level developers that I've hired, people that I know I'm going to train up, the type of assignments that I would give them would be code reviews. It would be updating a bunch of files. We're changing a specific class name. Little things like that that are very tedious. That's what an entry-level person would do, and you'd slowly move them up as they got more experience, as they got familiar with the code base, right? That's what I would expect someone to be trained for. Nowadays, Cursor, I can auto, update my entire code base. So a junior doesn't need to do that anymore. So what am I having the junior do now? What are you training them for?
Yeah. So, I mean, we're still early on a lot of this, right? But we can see the beginnings of like the reports that are coming out about what entry-level talent is doing. Eventually, you're going to see more orchestration. You're going to see more, not to say pushing the button, Quincy, but more like how do we manage these systems that are integral to the code that we're building. And so I actually don't think we're there yet. I still see people getting normal engineering roles. If you focus on the top percent of companies that are actively adding these systems and skills into their code bases, that's a small portion of people. A lot of the local tech companies, a lot of the local orgs, they don't have the talent yet to build out these large workflows. And so the students I see getting jobs every single day are working at normal healthcare. They're working at normal finance orgs that haven't adopted these like big changes yet. The opportunities are still out there, even with the base skills that folks have. Like, I just see it every day. So I kind of get a little worked up and I want to yell, like, your skills are still valuable. They're still in demand. But we are seeing things change. We are seeing a deeper need for actual problem solving, a deeper need for understanding how your tools and systems work with each other, focusing on the engineering, not the developing, right? Like those skills, the debugging, like if you're getting responses back from these AI tools, how do you reason through them? How do you know that it's not nonsense? And so the fundamentals become even more important. And that's why saying you don't need to learn how to code is the silliest thing I've ever heard, because as we go deeper into this stuff, we need those things more. And so we're seeing, even from the early reports, even like universities are adopting this idea now, saying like, hey, the thing that we're going to need most are these deep problem solving, these deep debugging, these deep ways of reasoning through the things that we're building. And if you're entry level talent to bring it back, you can focus on those things. You can learn the fundamentals. You can go to free code camp. You can do the basic CS. You can do these things and learn, so that way you can start applying and orchestrating these larger things. But most companies aren't there yet. The people that are writing and slinging code aren't worried about this now. We're in that bubble where you should be learning these, because in 2 to 3 years, that's going to radically change. If you're talking right now, it's still the same game we've been playing a little bit.
That's interesting. The junior has more tools, but they're more powerful, so the expectation is going to be bigger. The knowledge base is the same, but the actual job they're doing is shifting that way. And I agree with the lag. Quincy?
Yeah. I mean, I think Leon had an excellent point that this is like this is the greatest opportunity for like an on the fence dev who's like, should I really like learn proper programming? This is the greatest opportunity for them to remain on the fence, or to get off the fence on the side of, oh, I'll just rely on this tool. But the fundamental problem solving skills, if you look at, like, we always joke, like, what is a sufficiently complete spec for what a program should do? It's code. It's the resulting code, because the resulting code is what tells the program what it's supposed to do. And just being able to verbally describe, I should do this and this, like, it's not clear thinking. It's not crisp thinking, where you're working in all the edge cases and all the different trade-offs and considerations. Like, to sufficiently have gone through that process of figuring out what the application is supposed to do, the actual end result would be the code that you've written. So you can't really hand that off to an AI unless you're basically just compromising and saying, like, okay, so it's going to do some hand wavy stuff, and it's going to figure out what conventional approaches are for some of these different problems. And I'm going to save time by not having to go through every little problem. And I do think that's useful. But I definitely see the need for critical thinking and problem solving skills to probably remain right where it is. I don't think AI really impacts that. I do think AI is very good at helping me quickly get, like, okay, show me some examples of how other people have solved this problem, or the kind of the research phase type stuff. In terms of AI engineering itself, which is what we've been talking a little bit about, like using essentially APIs. I think somebody model context protocol or something. It's basically an API. Using that to kind of automate and streamline communication with like an LLM or another type of model. I think that is AI engineering. And I've interviewed Sean Wang, Swix, who kind of popularized the term AI engineering, who runs another podcast that's pretty good. If you're just in the market for stocking up on podcasts to listen to, you should absolutely listen to the programming podcast. You should probably listen to the Free Code Camp podcast. I'm a little biased in recommending that. And also, if you're really interested in this sort of stuff, Latent Space podcast, which Swix runs. So, and it's all about AI engineering. And what he has said, he said, being an AI engineer, working with this state-of-the-art technology, 90% web dev skills, like 90% understanding APIs, understanding how to like have a web server, like how to structure your database, how to move stuff around. Essentially, 10% learning like the new tools themselves. So there is actual learning, like learning how LLMs work, learning the specific like APIs and stuff like that for working with LLMs. But he considers that about 10%. And keep in mind, that's like his entire thing is like trying to convince people they need to learn this 10%. But even he will concede that if you actually want to become like an AI empowered engineer, that's like that's like the last 10% of your engineering training. And you still need to learn all the fundamentals, is essentially what he has said. And I've talked with both of the founders of Stack Overflow, both of whom are very bullish on generative AI, even though they're suing like some of these companies for unauthorized scraping of all their data and stuff like that. But I interviewed Jeff Atwood in his home in Mountain View. I interviewed Joel Spolsky at his home in New York City. Both of them had like very similar takes. You still need to learn the fundamentals. And how is this going to impact the job market? Is absolutely going to be delayed. The future is already here. It's just unevenly distributed. People will gradually be adopting these tools over the next 10, 15 years. I think it's going to be, if you're familiar with the Gartner hype cycle, it basically is like kind of a curve like this. And AI is probably right here at the point of inflated expectations. And then it's going to go into this disillusionment trough period. And then it's going to reach the plateau of productivity and everybody will have incorporated it. It's kind of like cloud. I think there's so much hype around cloud. Everybody's like cloud this. All these business people that don't know what the cloud is talking about cloud. And I think AI is the same thing. You see all these people in the government everywhere just talking about AI. They don't know a damn thing about AI. They're not engineers. They're doing their best, but you're going to hear a lot of people parroting this stuff. And who knows when it'll actually reach that plateau of productivity. But the cloud is certainly reaching that. And it's absolutely smart to learn how the cloud works, learn how to use these different platforms. And I do think it's a good investment to learn AI and stuff like that. But just be ready for this wild swing. I do believe that wild swing will happen and people will say, oh, AI is not useful. Useful as hell. I use it all the time. I spend like 3 hours a day probably using AI. But I just don't think fundamentally being an engineer has changed. I don't think education of engineers should fundamentally change as a result of these tools. That is my current take, and it's evolving.
Danny's itching.
I think everybody should just quit. Just give up. Now's the time. Here's the thing. AI has been around for a decade. We just didn't know about it, right? Companies were using it. People were building tools with it. It was there already, if we're being completely honest. Here's the thing. The reason why this time it feels different is it's given an ability to the non-technical. And in my honest belief, an average developer can ship something. A motivated individual with enough motivation can outship an average developer if they have a good problem-solving mindset, given the tools that we have now. This is why the juniors are afraid, in my opinion. I'll be honest. I think this has made the thing that seemed like a very coveted skill set very accessible to the masses. But the thing is, I have the same tools as a plumber. Why do I still pay them $150 per hour to come fix my sink? I have the same tools. Matter of fact, literally right now, me and my neighbor, we're paying someone to go build this fence. We all understand what needs to be done to build a fence. You put a post, put some cement, put the post in the ground, put the wood planks, blah, blah, blah. Why am I paying $9,000 for this company to come build this fence? We got the same tools. My garage is full of them. I know my big self is not going to be sweating outside building this fence, that's for sure. And maybe to some that's worth $9,000. The same way that I have a problem that they are solving, and because they are solving it, they're able to attach a pretty nice invoice to it. But there's no shortage of fence builders, is there? There's new ones, there's experienced ones, there's seasoned ones. None of that stopped, regardless of what's happening. I've even seen automated versions of roofing machines. I've seen automated fence building machines. It hasn't stopped anything. So if I'm being completely honest with you, If you're nervous about AI, your priorities are in the wrong area. That's number one. Number two, if AI or somebody with AI was going to take your role, they were going to take it anyway. I don't think really anything changed from there. And I think you need to really be completely focused more on anything else than problem solving skills at the end of the day. But here's the thing. When it comes to the role of a junior, if anything, and this is my hot take, AI has helped you more than anything else because it's de-risked you more now than ever before as a candidate if you use it the proper way. Meaning, if you are in these conversations, you need to be thinking about how you're presenting. You know what's funny? At Stripe sessions, I keep mentioning Stripe sessions. This happened 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. Honestly, all the days are blurred. So many people came up to ThisDotLabs. We had a booth there. Stripe asked us to come out there to kind of educate the public on Stripe apps and the marketplace, et cetera, et cetera. When Stripe needed a team, we were the one that they called to come out there and help out. And when they needed apps, we were the one that they called to help build these apps, right? Same thing with DocuSign. I was at DocuSign Momentum 4 weeks ago in New York. They needed help with AI and DocuSign apps and integrations. That's exactly what we ended up coming in with our team and doing, right? And we're explaining this to all these people. These are like business conferences. And when I start talking to them about this, their whole mindset shifts instantly. They're like, whoa, I didn't think about this. What was the biggest pain point of bringing on a junior dev to an organization? The amount of resources and hand-holding that you had to dedicate from someone on your team to be there. And it's a 1-to-1, 1-to-2 relationship. What if you now have the ability to do a 1-to-30 relationship where AI is doing a lot of the vetting. It's letting them ideate. And then before, at the code review stage, or maybe even before, when you're doing your daily checks, you now have someone who could just glance at everything to ensure it's at the quality that you want it to be. But now you can work with them on their prompting, on the way that they're auditing. One thing that we're even doing internally right now at ThisDot, we created this phenomenal PR tool that's checking not just for the styling standards, but code quality standards that we implement within our organization. Right? It's more testing than anything right now. But just seeing this in action, and then we put something in there that it's 70% of what we would normally see, right? To see if we can catch it. Boom, it's catching these mistakes. So now if we're to bring on a junior, guess what? We have this whole infrastructure in place that saves a lot of that effort for us. So if you are a junior dev, my advice in 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024 has always been, how are you packaging your conversation? How are you packaging your points? What are you saying that gets them interested in the overall conversation and in you and understanding your capabilities? I've said from the beginning, you have to be a problem solver. That hasn't changed. That rhetoric hasn't shifted at all in any way, shape, or form. If anything, it's more important now than it ever was before. But if you're now working on how you add value to the conversation, you're golden. Because in 2020, when we were getting people jobs, it wasn't because they learned how to code. That's the prerequisite to enter the conversation. You can't be an English teacher because you know English. That's the prerequisite needed to enter that conversation. There's so much more that's outside of that. It's the same thing with coding. Just learning how to code doesn't make you equal for a job. It never was the case. Whenever we had people that were struggling to get a job, what did Leon and I do? What does your strategy look like? What do your conversations look like? What does your elevator pitch look like? What does your LinkedIn look like? What does your resume look like? How are you networking? What is your hit list, et cetera, et cetera? I learned the hit list term recently, so I'm using it in a sentence. But what does that look like? That didn't change because AI came here. Last week, or was it the week before last, we had 6 junior devs get a job. We had 2 seniors get a job. It's not even at the junior level anymore. Why? It's the same strategies, and I'm telling you, it worked in 2019, it's working in 2025, and I'll bet you money it's going to work in 2026, it's going to work in 2027, but you're going to be mad at yourself if you start ignoring it now and then realize, dang, if I did this from the beginning, I would have already been in this career building up my entire future. It's up to you. No matter what path you take, it's going to be hard. It's just up to you which difficult path you want to take. You can find an excuse for either one. But I tell you right now, if you build your skill set, you use that problem-solving set of skills, and you're shipping, you're going to be in a great situation. But one last thing that I would say here, if I'm honest, now more than ever before, you have an equal chance to ship something phenomenal with a lot of these organizations. Your path to monetization of the field of tech doesn't just exist at a desk in a company. It's great, it's secure, but I'm telling you right now, if there's an idea you want to ship, it's never been easier than before to ship something that people will adopt.
I think that was one of the best explanations that I've ever heard on that junior developer position. In one way, I can say you're doing, their approach is supposed to be the same, but you also can't market yourself or present yourself like it's 2012. You made a joke at Commit Your Code. You said back in those days, you'd sneeze out the word JavaScript and you're hired just like that, because the implementation of what you needed to do was so different. With what you said, I have personal experience from it where I've hired entry-level developers before, and my interview process has changed. Not because what we do at a company is so different because I'm having them use all these AI tools. The bigger impact was honestly these frameworks and low-code tools. It was during the interview process, I expect you to know so much more. I expect you to be so much more powerful. So that same junior, you have those basic skill sets, but how are you solving those particular issues? I expect you to be much more dynamic, and I want to have a deeper conversation rather than, do you know what hoisting is? You know, do you know, like, these very specific things in JavaScript? I try to skim over that, but I want to see that implementation. So that junior can go from, or entry-level developer can go from that position to mid-level to senior so much quicker because they're at that high-level overview. And I love that because it's simply the packaging and what you're looking to solve. So you're just making sure they have more expectation on them, that they're more targeted with that.
You want me to reply to that? I can, but I'm like, I know we're almost at time too, so I don't want to run my mouth.
I'm looking at Quincy. He's very intense today, and I feel like he's spitting fire. I've never seen him this intense.
I'm hyped up, man. I just did like a 1 hour podcast or 2 hour podcast recording right before I jumped on here. So I was like pre-warmed. If I'm coming off as overly intense, overly hyped, I did drink a lot of caffeine today.
No, that's good. I want to see this. I want to see a different side. I have something I want to say towards the end, but Quincy, you mentioned something in one of your podcasts, and I kind of want to shift topics here. You're very pro computer science degree. You're very pro math in tech. Is there any opposition to that? Maybe not the CS degree. I think we all kind of vaguely agree with that. Like, it's good, don't write it off, but it's not a need. But your take on math is very, very definitive. Like, you were pretty adamant about developers should learn math. I know my take on it is that it's good, but it's not necessary.
So I want to give you like a balanced take on this, because I think, like, of course, in a vacuum, in a post-scarcity, 24th century Star Trek land, everybody should learn everything, right? And I'm like a huge advocate of the trivium and the quadrivium and all the old liberal arts stuff. I have a liberal arts degree, right? There is no knowledge that is not power. That's from the attract mode of Mortal Kombat 3 arcade game. And I think that is absolutely true. I think everybody needs to learn as much as they can. And I think people like dismiss, like, I don't really need I can just sit here and play some Xbox and take it easy today. And like, I'm all about like, no, it will help you. It will help. There's marginal benefit to learning these things. You will find yourself in situations where having a little bit better knowledge of math results in you creating a more efficient, search algorithm or something like that. Right now, you may say, okay, I'm like I'm 44. Like, should I go back to school and like learn math and take like math courses with all the 20-year-old kids and stuff like that? Like, probably not, but I can absolutely learn just in time. And as long as I take math seriously and I don't just say, I suck at math, I'm not going to learn this math. Like, when a freaking formula comes up and I'm reading some article or something and I'm like, okay, well, like, let's take this as an opportunity to slow down and understand it. And like, okay, maybe this isn't that hard. Like, take that formula, screenshot it, throw it into your LLM and say, hey, can you implement this as Python code? And then I'm going to read the Python. I'm like, oh, okay. So I see actually like what I've been doing is kind of similar to this mathematical operation. It's just that I was using this data structure to do it or something like that. And you start to see the overlay. So I do think that like learning the math, learning the programming, like, and I'm saying like even learning like C or something like that is probably extremely beneficial. Should you drop everything when you are a 44-year-old person, need to like provide for your kids, need to figure out a way to like, potentially save for college if college still exists 20 years from now, like all those different things. there is nuance there. I don't want everybody to think like, oh damn, like I'm just not going to be a good engineer if I don't go and learn these skills. But I will say that if you can find the time to like just in time learn and make a point to learn it and not be intimidated by it, it will help you over time. And if you just have a bunch of time, you're like, hey, I've got like 2 weeks off, or like I just got laid off. I just talked to a guy on the podcast. He literally just got laid off last week from Microsoft, a senior engineering role. I hope you all enjoy that conversation. I'm probably going to drop it tomorrow. But basically, he just, he's just trying to like learn stuff. He's trying to do stuff. He's using this as an opportunity to get back to basics. And if you find yourself in a similar like life change where you have that, go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I was surprised because that was on your podcast with Leon actually, and I don't think anybody would disagree that you're going to be better if you learn it. Just like with data structures and algorithms, no one's going to say if you know it, you're worse off. But you definitely seem to have a hard take on it. I guess more aggressive than what I've seen from people. I'm at that point too, where I definitely think anyone can benefit from it. But I also believe that there's a very specific side of the market that only needs that. Like let's say 20 to 30% where you're really going to need it, and then the other 70% are just building out. They're doing some design, front end engineering stuff. They're building out mom and pop shops. So it's almost like you'll literally almost never use it outside of calculating some basic percentages and things like that, or doing temperature changes and such. But yeah, that's I was curious if you were. If you were going to stand firm on that, and if there was going to be opposition.
Yeah, don't use it as an excuse to not build stuff. But at the same time, don't use the fact that you don't think you're ever going to need it as an excuse to not be open to it and learn it, in my humble opinion.
Right. Okay. So I wanted to address this question. So I kind of highlighted this a second ago. The difference in my interview process right now is kind of what I mentioned, where historically I would look at an entry-level developer and I understand they're going to be kind of like a cog in the machine. They're not going to be a decision maker. They're the hammer. You tell them to do something and they do it, and then you check if they did it correctly, and that's it. Where now in that interview process, I will skim over those details to understand that you have those skills, but I'm also going to go deeper into your high-level thinking because you have more tools now. You are more powerful. So now you have like this command center, right? And the more you click, the more you can do as far as progress and the more damage you can do. So I will give you a problem and I will usually have you break it down. And I want to really hear that specific thought process and what you think about the actual issue itself. Danny, sorry. I guess we just crossed over that time. I want to know how you break down the code, and I will usually throw out challenges on maybe how to optimize that code, how to properly reconfigure it. I'm going to go deeper into those type of things and maybe throw more tech at you to see how you react. Not that I expect you to know all this tech, but I expect you to think about it at a high level as opposed to going very specific in one area, because you're no longer just a hammer. You now have a control panel. That's kind of the take on that. And I believe, we are at the hour. We can, unless we have some closing thoughts, we can start closing this out right here. Leon, anything?
I think a lot of things have been talked about, but if you're listening or watching this, there's never been a better time in the history of learning to learn right now. The tools that you have at your disposal to help you learn, especially as an adult learner, are only going to continue to get better. And if you're looking at engineering as a career, there's always been an excuse. Offshoring, nearshoring, no code, low code, AI, there's always been something. But time and time again, I have folks come to me that their whole lives changed because they decided to do a little bit of free code camp. They decided to do a little bit of 100 devs. They got that job that changed their lives. It's a high growth career. The effort you put in pays off throughout the rest of your life. And I just wish I could take each one of you and say, it's worth the time. It's worth the effort. People are still getting jobs. People are still shaping the lives that they want. And so please don't let a hype cycle stop you from getting closer to the life that you deserve and the things that you want. You have more tools now at your disposal to help you. You have more people willing to lend a helping hand. And so please seize the opportunity. There have always been folks that have said, I wish I started earlier. Don't be one of them. Don't delay. Start today. You can craft something wonderful for yourself. And so I hope that if you are interested, you reach out to the folks that were on this call today. We would all love to help and support in our own way. Yeah, a lot of folks in the chat that are also just talking and sharing their experience. Listen to them. Look at the people that are doing what you want to do and go down that path. You will be thankful that you did.
Yeah, that's the title of this talk, right? The amazing but unsettling future for developers. I think the amazing part is what Leon just said. It's not going anywhere. The opportunity is insane. If anything, this has been more democratized than any time in history. We have so many different types of developers building with smaller teams, getting products to market faster. And even in companies, the roles are simply changing, and it's going to be fun. The unsettling part, I would say, is the change as well, right? There's people that get comfortable. We have our nice cushy chairs and our good salaries, and we don't want that to change, right? Because that means now if I'm a little bit older and I'm trying to settle down and calm down, I don't want to have to learn a bunch of new things and adapt. That's the unsettling part, is there feels like there's uncertainty. There's a lot of BS in the market. There's a lot of sensationalism. Again, the NVIDIA CEO saying you don't have to code was just absolutely obnoxious. And then we find out he meant that in a completely different context. But when we hear stuff like that, it's scaring people. That's the part that's definitely unsettling to me. But I'm glad we addressed a lot of these points. That was kind of the focus here, and I thought I had the perfect people to address this. Like, everyone here is in the forefront in the education space, in the job market, and seeing what's happening. Like, we see this change every day.
Yeah, I just want to 100% everything Leon said. Like, if you all are still watching this, you've already kind of self-selected into a group of people who are going to get there. It's just a matter of time and extended effort, and pace yourself. My one call to action for you all: start listening to more programming related podcasts. You're just going to steep yourself in positive energy, in anecdotes and experiences from people who've been there, who've accomplished what you're setting out to accomplish. And that's going to carry you. You're going to be learning a little bit every day as you're, commuting to work, as you're at the gym, wherever it is you listen to podcasts. Just try to listen to more podcasts would be my humble advice. And don't just listen to there's a lot of hype people. I would just avoid the top podcasts you see, like the all in podcast. I'm not a fan of these kind of tech bro type podcasts. What I like to hear is real experiences from real devs. And you'll get that when you listen to the programming podcast, and you'll get that on the Free Code Camp podcast and a lot of these other podcasts. People are actually in the field doing the work, not just trying to hype people up, who have real lives. They're not self-made multimillionaire type people that are trying to get you to attend their seminar or whatever. No, you're going to hear from real people who are just trying to make a career for themselves and be good at what they do. And I think there's so much merit to that, to just striving to be better at what you do and striving to build that resilience for you and your family by getting a job that gives you agency in life. So you have options. It gives you excess income so you can save for a rainy day. Those are all things that I think are worth pursuing. And I just want to, again, shout out to Leon for everything he's doing to inspire people. He's a huge inspiration for me. A lot of my day-to-day inspiration is just thinking of, what is Leon doing? What's Danny doing? And that's how I they're kind of continually renewing my own level of energy, is looking at what the emerging, talent guys are. And I do consider you all exploded on the scene. It's been such a huge inspiration to me. I also want to shout out Dennis, man. You're awesome. Thanks for everything you've done through teaching courses that we publish on the Free Code Camp channel and on your own channel. And very hyped that you invited me here and gave me this opportunity to connect with all these awesome folks. I'm really hyped about Commit Your Code. Planning on visiting. I'd love to talk there if you all want me to talk again. I don't want to monopolize it, but I love it. The conference, it's awesome. Everybody listening to this, you should try to go if you have the means to go.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm expecting you to be there. I'm assuming you're going to be talking too. So I found out Leon has a picture of Quincy, and Quincy, I don't know if you have pictures of Leon on your desktop, but the mutual respect here is amazing.
I mean, yeah. I definitely will be watching this recording and playing back that over and over again a couple of times. I appreciate it, Quincy, the GOAT for sure. I mean, what they've been able to do for folks online and around the world and changing their lives is, I mean, that's the inspiration. It's why we're doing the things that we do.
Yeah, I loved having you both on here. I'm gonna make sure to link up those podcasts. I linked up your Twitter accounts, your personal websites, but both of those need to be linked up because I take walks, I go to the gym, I work in my garden. I'm always, you both of you are in my ear all day basically. So I'm already very familiar with these voices. As someone that's been in the industry for, gosh, I think 12 years now. It's been a long time. I'm still consuming this information, and it's simply just being around it and seeing what's happening. You can never learn enough. There's always more information, more takes that you can hear about, and it's absolutely amazing. So those will be linked up here. Thank you for being here. This wraps up Init Day 4. Tomorrow we have our last day. We're going to have a little celebration, more of a casual chat with more guests. And real quick, while we still have 90 people in the audience, we're trying to get to 50,000 stars. We're close. We're about 433 away, if I can do the quick math here. So, or 333. Make sure to go star it if you haven't. We'd appreciate that support. And that's going to wrap it up. So thank you all. Have a great day.